So, I was good enough to sleep with, but not good enough to marry? That's what Bianca Price said as she stood there, calm, poised, holding a clutch so tight her knuckles had turned white. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't crack. No, it cut, sharp, surgical, cold. And that was the moment Malik Hayes realized. He had made the gravest mistake of his life. He thought she was gone, thought she had moved on, thought he had buried the past beneath matching tuxedos, manicured flower arrangements, and champagne flutes engraved with his fiancée's name. But Bianca? She never left. She just waited. Nearly a year ago, she was his secret, his addiction. She wasn't the woman he brought to dinner with clients or posted on Instagram. No, she was the one he met at midnight, behind closed hotel doors. The one he whispered lies to in dark rooms, feeding her hope with hands that didn't belong to her. He told her that Savannah Cole, the woman he was technically dating, was on her way out, that things were complicated, that Bianca was next, the woman who made him feel alive. And she believed him. God help her, she believed every word. She gave him her body, her time, her silence. She waited, and then he vanished, just like that. No warning, no conversación. One day, she was the flame he couldn't stay away from, and the next blocked, muted, deleted. 3 months later, she saw it. The yacht, the proposal, the hashtag. Her stomach turned. Her pulse roared. Her fingers trembled over her phone as she scrolled through post after post. There he was, Malik, kneeling under Bahamian skies, holding out a diamond the size of Bianca's heartbreak. And beside him, the woman who had won. The woman who, in Malik's eyes, was worth everything Bianca never got. Savannah looked radiant, glowing, clueless. And why wouldn't she be? She didn't know that 3 weeks before that photo was taken, Malik was still in Bianca's bed, still kissing her neck, still saying, "I'm just trying to figure things out." Figure things out? He had figured them out just fine. He was marrying someone else. Bianca said nothing at first, just watched. Watched the engagement unfold, the photo shoots, the wedding planning. Every time she opened her phone, it was another reminder she had been replaced. But she didn't scream. She didn't break dishes. She didn't post a bitter tweet. She waited. She sat in the quiet of her apartment, lights low, curtains drawn, and began to plan. Not a scene, not a tantrum, a reckoning. Because Bianca Price wasn't a phase. She wasn't a mistake. She was a consequence, one Malik never thought would catch up to him. When the wedding day arrived, the estate outside of Dallas shimmered like something out of a magazine. Rows of white chairs, violin music floating on the wind, petals lining the aisle like a trail to heaven. But that day, heaven had no vacancy, because hell had already arrived. Bianca slipped into the back row, dressed in a champagne-colored satin gown, her hair pulled into a neat bun. She looked like she belonged there. Another guest, another well-wisher. No one looked twice. No one asked her name. She sat silently, her fingers wrapped around the clutch in her lap. Inside it, a flash drive. And something else. Something heavier. Metal. Cold. The ceremony began. Savannah floated down the aisle like an angel in silk. Malik stood at the altar, hands folded, smile forced. Sweat already forming at his temples. He didn't know she was there. Not yet, but he would. And then the officiant said the words. "If anyone here objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." Oh, the silence that followed. It was a silence so deep you could hear hearts pounding. A pause pregnant with anticipation, nerves, joy. And then, a chair scraped in the back. A woman stood, slowly, deliberately. All heads turned. Her heels clicked against the stone as she took a single step forward. Her eyes locked onto Malik's. And in that moment, his soul fled his body. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a joke. It was Bianca, the secret, the ghost, the fire he thought he'd smothered. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She just raised her voice enough to reach the altar. "So, you weren't going to tell her about our little vacation?" she said, holding up the flash drive. "Or the video?" Gasps. Whispers. Phones lifted. Savannah turned, confused. Malik stepped forward, panic etched across his face. But before he could speak, the gun appeared. Small, sleek, black, It gleamed like the truth in Bianca's hands. She didn't flinch. She didn't shake. And just like that, the fairy tale turned to terror. If you asked anyone about Malik Hayes, they'd all say the same thing. He's got all. He's a real catch. Sharp, smart, successful, handsome. And none of that would be wrong. At just 30, Malik had built his own boutique real estate firm from the ground up. He wore designer suits like second skin. His Instagram was a highlight reel of jet-set weekends, rooftop cocktails, and luxury watches glinting under golden light. To the outside world, he was the dream. A man who had risen fast, polished every edge, and stayed 2 steps ahead of the game. But what people didn't know was this. Malik Hayes had a trail of wreckage behind that perfect smile. He was charming, yes. But stable? Never. Malik had spent most of his 20s as a serial dater, if you could even call it that. Models, influencers, lawyers, party girls. They came and went like seasons, each one convinced they would be the one to change him. Each one left with unanswered texts and a hollow space where promises used to be. He didn't do commitment. He did control. That is, until he met Savannah Cole. She wasn't like the rest. Savannah didn't wear loud colors or chase attention. She didn't care about VIP tables or exclusive invites. She was soft-spoken, radiant in a quiet way, the kind of woman who didn't need to be seen to shine. She worked in nonprofit development, managing campaigns for underfunded schools. She believed in handwritten thank you notes, family dinners, and calling her grandmother on Sundays. Her smile had depth. Her kindness had weight. And Malik was mesmerized. At first, no one believed it. Not his friends, not his colleagues, not even his mother. Malik Hayes, settling down, with one woman, for real? Then came the Bahamas trip, a private yacht, a sunset proposal, a diamond ring that sparkled harder than the waves around them. And just like that, Instagram exploded. Hashtag she said yes. Hashtag Hayes and Cole forever. Hashtag power couple. The photos were everywhere. Malik kissing her forehead. Savannah laughing in a white sundress. The caption read, "To forever with my best friend." But the caption didn't tell the whole story. Because what Savannah didn't know, what she could never have imagined, was that only 3 weeks before he slipped that ring on her finger, Malik was still in bed with another woman. Bianca. He had told her he just needed time. That she meant more than she realized. That things with Savannah were complicated. Bianca believed him. Because he made her believe. He whispered what she needed to hear. Held her like she was irreplaceable. Touched her like he couldn't let go. And then he did exactly that. Blocked. Vanished. Deleted. Like she was a mistake he could just erase from his phone and never speak of again. He thought it was over. Thought he could tuck her away in the shadows of his past. Thought he could walk down that aisle, kiss his bride, and start a new chapter without consequence. But Malik had no idea what he'd ignited. Because Bianca Price wasn't some fling to be forgotten. She wasn't a disposable night in a luxury suite. She was a woman who had been lied to, used, discarded. And when Malik decided to silence her, when he chose to move forward without giving her even a shred of closure, he didn't just burn a bridge. He lit a fuse. Meanwhile, preparations for the wedding moved forward at breakneck speed. Savannah was glowing, calm, joyful, the kind of bride who didn't micromanage or panic. She'd picked her dream dress months ago, a silk, off-shoulder piece with pearl buttons running down the spine. The venue? A sprawling estate just outside of Dallas. Gardens, fountains, a ballroom that shimmered like glass. Over 200 guests were invited. Family, friends, co-workers, people who had watched their love story unfold in pictures. To them, this wedding was the culmination of a fairy tale. To Malik, it was an escape hatch, a reset, a way to rewrite the story he didn't want the world to know. He never told Savannah about Bianca, never confessed, never took responsibility. He simply hit delete and hoped the past wouldn't resurface. But, the past doesn't delete that easily, especially not when it has receipts, screenshots, voice memos, a heart full of betrayal, and a burning need to be seen. Malik Hayes thought he had the perfect life lined up. He had the woman, the venue, the guest list, even the damn hashtag. But there was one thing he didn't have. peace. And as the countdown to the big day began, that ticking you heard in the background, it wasn't wedding bells. It was a time bomb. There are some people in this world who move through life like a hymn. Savannah Cole was one of them. She didn't chase attention. She didn't need to. Her presence filled a room not with noise, but with warmth. At 29 years old, Savannah had the kind of beauty that lived in gestures, in the way she listened, in the way she remembered birthdays, in the way her laughter could ease the sharpest of days. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't dramatic. She was kind, unapologetically, unwaveringly kind. Born and raised in a small town outside of Houston, Savannah came from a world of Sunday gospel, potluck dinners, and handwritten letters tucked between Bible pages. Her family wasn't rich, but they were close. Her mother worked in the local library. Her father ran a modest mechanic shop. And love in that household was sacred. It was shown in quiet acts, folded laundry, warm meals, a kiss on the forehead before work. That was the soil Savannah was raised in. And from that grew a woman of remarkable grace. She carried it into everything: her work, her friendships, her faith. She believed in people, believed in second chances, believed in stories that ended with healing. So when Malik Hayes entered her life, dressed in confidence and crowned with charm, she saw not a player, but a man who was finally ready. Maybe that was her greatest gift, or maybe it was her greatest mistake. They met at a fundraising event for underserved schools. Savannah working the donation table, Malik delivering the keynote. She hadn't expected anything. She wasn't looking, but when he walked up, smiled that radiant smile, and said, "You look like the kind of woman who changes the world," she laughed. And something inside her softened. They began seeing each other. Quiet dinners, long walks, books traded back and forth. Malik brought her flowers, opened doors, listened to her stories like they were scripture. And for the first time in her life, Savannah thought, this might be it. She didn't question him, not when he was late to call, not when he seemed distant some weekends. She didn't scroll through old tags, didn't dig into his exes, didn't ask about the past. She believed what he told her, because trust was her default setting. The months flew by. A yacht proposal in the Bahamas. A ring that sparkled like 1,000 yes. And just like that, the countdown began. Savannah was a vision in wedding prep. While other brides spiraled under pressure, she glided. She had chosen her gown early, a silk, off-the-shoulder masterpiece with tiny pearl buttons down the back. Her bridesmaids were her cousins, her college best friend, and her older sister Monica, who insisted on handling the Instagram chaos so Savannah could stay focused on joy. Her mother cooked for the rehearsal dinner. Her father kept rechecking the venue contract like it was gospel. Guests were arriving from out of state. Vendors delivered everything with precision. The estate looked like a dream. Manicured gardens, white roses draped over wooden arches, a ballroom glowing with chandeliers. And Savannah? She glowed, too. She wrote letters to each of her bridesmaids that week. Personal, handwritten notes about why she loved them, why she chose them to stand beside her. She prayed with her mother, laughed with her aunties, took photos holding up signs that read "Bride-to-be" and "Forever starts now." To everyone watching, she was walking into a storybook. But beneath all that perfection, just below the lace and lavender, there were whispers. At her final dress fitting, one of her bridesmaids pulled her aside. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I mean, Malik's a little complicated." Savannah just smiled. "Everyone has a past," she replied. "He's not that person anymore. People change." Another friend joked at the bridal shower. "Girl, you tamed the untamable." Laughter followed, but for a moment it hung in the air too long. Still, Savannah didn't doubt. Not publicly, not even to herself. Why would she? Malik had never made her cry. He had never called her names. He was sweet, attentive, present. When he looked at her, he looked like a man in love. And she looked like a woman who believed it. The final morning before the wedding, Savannah woke to birdsong and the smell of fresh lilies. Sunlight spilled across her bed as her bridesmaids giggled in the hallway, already half-dressed, already glowing for her. She sat at her vanity, hair in soft curls, makeup dewy and radiant. Her dress hung nearby, like a promise. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered a prayer. Savannah looked in the mirror and whispered one of her own. Let today be beautiful. Let today be sacred. Let today be forever. She didn't know. She had no idea that her forever would end before the ceremony even did. Before there was Savannah Cole, there was Bianca Price. And if Savannah was silk and sincerity, Bianca was fire and ferocity. She didn't blend in. She burned through. At 26, Bianca made a living off nightlife promotion and modeling. Weeknights in VIP booths. Weekends at private parties with gold-plated guest lists. Her life was bright, loud, magnetic. And it was at one of those black-tie charity galas, the kind where people pretend to care while sipping $40 cocktails, that Malik first saw her. She wasn't even on the list. But that didn't matter. Bianca could get into any room she wanted. And the moment she walked in that night, eyes turned. And Malik? He couldn't look away. She wasn't like the women he usually chased. She didn't flatter. She challenged. She didn't wait. She commanded. And that night, she slid beside him at the bar with a smile that said, I already know what you want. Their first conversation was electric, snarky, bold, dangerous. By the end of the night, they weren't networking. They weren't talking about business. They were tangled in each other, the world outside the suite a blur. And so began a storm. Their relationship, if you could call it that, wasn't love. It was obsession. 1 week, they were inseparable. Trips to Miami. All-night texts. Hotel rooms with the curtains pulled shut and the air heavy with perfume and secrets. The next, silence. Fights. Ghosting. Screaming matches over loyalty and jealousy. It was toxic. Addictive. Chaotic. But they kept coming back. Every time Alex said it was over, he showed up again. And Bianca, for all her pride, let him. Because somewhere under the madness, she thought it meant something. She thought she meant something. He told her things. Private things. You're the only one who sees the real me. With you, it's different. Give me time. And she did. She waited. She held her breath while he untangled his so-called complications with Savannah. Then one day, everything stopped. The final message was clean. Sterile. I am sorry, Beh. This just isn't working anymore. Please don't reach out again. I wish you the best. And then, nothing. Blocked. Gone. Erased like a typo. Bianca stared at the message. Her thumb hovered over the reply button. But what do you even say to something like that? What words are left when someone deletes you from their life like a bad memory? She didn't cry. Not at first. She laughed. A tight, bitter sound that cracked into silence. Because deep down she knew. She knew he wasn't being honest. She knew Malik Hayes hadn't just ended a fling. He was burying a body. Hers. For a while, Bianca stayed silent. She muted his account, deleted their photos, even tried flirting with someone new. But pain doesn't dissolve that easily. Not when it's wrapped in betrayal. And then, one lazy afternoon, she was scrolling, half numb, half bored, when it hit her like a brick to the chest. There she was, Savannah, in a white sash, holding champagne, surrounded by friends and pink balloons. The caption, Bridal bliss for the future, Mrs. Hayes, ring sparkling heart hashtag, countdown to forever. Bianca stopped breathing. Her thumb trembled. She clicked the profile, started digging, and that's when the truth exploded. Savannah, Malik, engagement, photos, hashtags, cake shaped like a diamond ring, smiles, so many damn smiles. And in the center of a group photo, there he was, Malik, grinning, holding Savannah's hand, wearing the same watch Bianca had bought him for his birthday. Bianca stared at the screen, and something inside her cracked. Not like a plate, like a damn fault line. He had lied. He hadn't walked away to find peace. He had walked away to build a wedding. While she was waiting for clarity, he was planning centerpieces. Just weeks earlier, he had been shirtless in her apartment, whispering about confusion, about working things out. And now he was wearing matching pajamas with his fiancée for a wedding shoot? No. Hell no. She opened their chat, typed furiously. You getting married? For real? After everything? No response. Another message. Then another. You lied to me. You don't even have the guts to face me. Still nothing. Blocked again. And that silence, was the final insult. It told her exactly where she stood. Disposable. Forgettable. Replaced. Bianca Price didn't scream. She didn't rage online. She didn't pull up at his office or key his car. She planned. If he thought blocking her would erase her, he was about to learn a lesson written in blood. She made burner accounts, created new emails, sent messages across every platform she could find. When guilt didn't work, she used threats. It's about videos, screenshots, voicemails he sent at 2 a.m. But still, no response. Because what she didn't know was Savannah never saw the messages. Her sister Monica had taken control of her social media in the final weeks before the wedding, filtering out anything that looked toxic or strange. Bianca's messages? Trashed. So when the silence continued, Bianca assumed the worst. That they were laughing at her, mocking her, reading her pleas, and choosing each other anyway. That betrayal stung deeper than the lies. And in that pain, she found her purpose. Bianca wasn't unraveling. She was awakening. She wasn't spiraling. She was aiming. The woman Malik thought he left in the past had just turned into the one thing he could never escape. Retribution. Silence is a powerful thing. To most people, it's just the absence of sound. But to Bianca Price, silence became a message. A verdict. A slap in the face that didn't leave bruises, but carved something much deeper. She had reached out, again and again. One message, 2, 15, and when none of them were answered, she stopped asking questions. She started making statements. It began with emotion, pleading. You said I meant something. You told me you needed time. Did none of it matter? Then came the guilt. I was there when you were lost. I saw the real you. I still loved you. Then came the venom. She doesn't know you like I do. I dare you to show her the things you showed me. You can lie to her, but I know the truth. She sent voice memos, old photos, screenshots of late-night calls, even a short video, grainy, shaky, of the two of them together in a hotel mirror, his arms wrapped tightly around her waist. But there was still no response. What Bianca didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that Savannah Cole never read a single word. Because Savannah wasn't in charge of her inbox anymore. Her sister, Monica, had taken over her social media just a few weeks before the wedding. She said it was to protect Savannah's peace, to filter the noise. But really? She knew. Monica had seen enough weddings to understand that joy brings out all kinds of ugly in people. Old flames, bitter friends, trolls. So she filtered, relentlessly. If the message didn't come from a family member, a vendor, or someone in Savannah's contact list, it got deleted. No questions asked. To Monica, it was protection. To Bianca, it was war. Each unanswered message felt like another door slamming in her face. Each day of silence felt like another layer of humiliation, as if Malik and Savannah were reading every word, laughing about it, and moving on with their fairy tale anyway. She imagined them curled up in bed, his arm around her waist, scrolling through Bianca's desperate paragraphs and saying, she's crazy. And that image was the final straw. The tone of her messages changed. She stopped pleading. She started threatening. You think I won't show her? You think your wedding's gonna wipe me out? Ask him about Miami. I dare you. Then she found Savannah's work email, her LinkedIn, her nonprofit's fundraising page. She didn't care about etiquette anymore. She wanted to be heard, to ruin the illusion, to light a fire where Malik had planted flowers. She crafted every message like a blade. Short, sharp, surgical. Still think you're his only one? Ask him what he said to me last November. Hope you like liars. Still silence. Bianca's inbox remained empty. Unseen, unread, unforgiven. It drove her deeper. She made burner profiles. Anonymous usernames with no mutuals, no photos. She messaged Savannah from 3, then 4 different accounts. Nothing. Bianca stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped modeling, stopped everything except watching. Every day, she checked for updates. Wedding countdowns, registry links, hashtags filled with pastel dresses and champagne glasses. Each image pierced her like a thorn, and every smile Savannah posted felt like it came with a whisper. You lost. Bianca started building something else. A flash drive. She filled it with screenshots, voicemails, selfies, videos, proof, evidence. Everything Malik had ever told her, every whisper of, "You're the one," and "We're not done." It wasn't about making him come back anymore. It was about making him pay. She would ruin the illusion, ruin the man, ruin the woman who dared to stand in her place. And if Malik thought she was bluffing, if he thought he could toss her into silence and still walk down the aisle, he was about to meet the truth. But first, she practiced being invisible. She watched the wedding rehearsal from her car. Dark windows, engine off. She saw the white chairs, the fairy lights, the happy guests posing for photos. She saw Malik, his tux jacket slung over one shoulder, laughing like the world was perfect, and she felt nothing. Not pain, not love, just certainty. Bianca wasn't going to crash the party. She was going to end it. And every ignored message, every deleted DM, they weren't forgotten. They were fuel, because silence may not scream, but it echoes. The night before a wedding is supposed to be magic. It's supposed to be champagne toasts, childhood stories, and nervous laughter echoing under fairy lights. And at the estate just outside Dallas, that's exactly what it looked like. For everyone except Malik Hayes. On the surface, he was golden. He posed for photos. He shook hands. He hugged relatives he barely knew. His suit was pressed. His watch gleamed. His smile, polished to perfection. But underneath it all, he was unraveling. It had been over a week since he'd heard from Bianca Price. No messages, no emails, no mysterious numbers lighting up his phone. After months of chaos, the silence scared him. At first, he was relieved. Thought maybe she had moved on. Maybe she'd finally accepted that chapter was closed. But Malik wasn't stupid. He knew Bianca. He knew her silences weren't surrenders. They were strategic. She's done, he told himself. But the thought didn't stick. He kept checking his phone, glancing at shadows that lingered too long, starting at every unfamiliar face in the crowd. And that night, that final night before he was supposed to say, "I do," the air tasted like fear. His groomsmen rented out a rooftop lounge downtown. Private section, bottle service, neon lights flickering over velvet ropes. Everything about it screamed celebration. Except Malik. He downed drinks faster than usual, laughed harder than he meant to, let his friends toast to love and loyalty while his mind wandered to gunmetal silence and unanswered messages. Around him, people clinked glasses. But inside him, something was clawing. Just after midnight, Malik slipped out the back of the lounge for some air. The parking lot was quiet. The city lights shimmered in the distance. He lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. And then, he wasn't alone. Bianca was there. She stood by his car, leaning against the hood like she owned it. Dressed in black, hair pulled back, eyes sharp, expression unreadable. Malik froze. The cigarette burned down to his fingertips before he even realized he was holding it. For a full 5 seconds, no one said a word. Then she stepped forward. Slow, controlled, calm. The kind of calm that makes your blood run cold. Bianca looked at him like he was a stranger, like she was seeing him for the first time and the last. Why, she asked. No escrime. No te ars. Just that word. Why did he lie? Why did he lead her on? Why did he throw her away like she was nothing? And Malik, he didn't answer. At first, he mumbled. Then he got defensive. Said it was over. Said she needed to stop. Said she was embarrassing herself. And every word was the wrong one. His voice rose. Not from guilt. From fear. Fear of what she might say. Fear of what she might do. She was the ghost he couldn't exorcise. The flame he couldn't control. And when he told her to get over it, we called her delusional. She slapped him. Hard. The sound cracked through the parking lot like a whip. Sharp. Final. Unmistakable. Malik reacted on instinct. He shoved her back. She stumbled, regained her balance, and straightened without flinching. And she gave him a look. Not of pain. Not even anger. Just clarity. Eyes locked. Jaw tight. Hand by her sides. She didn't need to scream. She whispered, "You'll regret this." And then she was gone. She turned, disappeared into the night like a storm cloud breaking off the horizon. Malik stood there alone, chest heaving, face stinging, hands trembling. He looked around, checked the shadows, checked his phone, but Bianca was already out of sight. And yet somehow, closer than ever. Back at the estate, Savannah slept beneath monogram sheets. Peaceful, blissfully unaware. In her dreams, she was walking down an aisle of rose petals. Waiting at the altar was the man she loved, the man she trusted. She would wake in the morning believing her forever was waiting. And Malik? He'd crawl into bed a few hours later, drunk, shaken, lying awake as her breath steadied beside him. He wouldn't sleep. He couldn't, because in the back of his mind, he knew the past doesn't disappear. It waits. The morning of the wedding dawned golden. Sunlight spilled through gauzy curtains. The air was thick with jasmine. The estate shimmered like a magazine spread. And in the guest suite at the far end of the house, Savannah Cole opened her eyes to the sound of soft music and laughter. This was it. Her day. The moment every little girl dreams about and every woman prays will be real. She sat up in bed, her silk robe fluttering as she moved to the balcony, where the world outside looked like it had been painted just for her. Below, the garden was already in motion. Florists fussed over centerpieces. Bridesmaids, still in pajamas, tiptoed barefoot through hallways with coffee and curlers. Vendors moved like shadows, placing crystal glasses and gold-foiled menus onto linen-draped tables. It was perfect, too perfect. 20 miles away, in a dimly lit concrete room with padded walls and paper targets on rails, Bianca Price loaded a gun. No music, no flowers, no one offering her mimosas or hugs. Just the cold metal of a 9mm pistol in her hand and the steady, rhythmic clink of spent casings hitting the floor. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't shaking. She wore all black. Leggings, a fitted zip-up, her hair pulled back tight. No makeup, no earrings, nothing that could snag or reflect or shimmer. Each movement was deliberate, measured. She adjusted the sights, raised her arm, and fired. Bang, bang, bang. Each shot punched through the silhouette on the target, each one closer to the center. At the estate, Savannah's mother buttoned the final pearl down the back of her gown. Her bridesmaids gasped. Someone whispered, "You look like royalty." And she did. The dress was everything she'd hoped it would be. Soft, elegant, timeless. She held her bouquet in trembling hands, not from fear, but from joy. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman on the edge of forever. She didn't know. At the gun range, Bianca placed the pistol back in its case, locked it, clicked it shut. Her hands? Still steady. She wasn't practicing for fun. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was preparing. Savannah descended the grand staircase of the estate to applause and tears. Downstairs, her father waited in a tailored tux, eyes wet, smile wide. He took her arm, kissed her cheek. "You ready, baby girl?" She nodded. "I've never been more sure." Bianca sat behind the wheel of her champagne-colored sedan, parked along a tree-lined road that led to the estate. Windows tinted, engine off. She had been there for nearly an hour, watching. Through binoculars, she tracked the movements of guests, staff, the wedding planner. She saw Malik step out onto the lawn, adjust his cufflinks, laugh with a cousin, and her jaw tightened. He looked calm, confident, like a man who believed the past was dead. But the past was parked 30 yards away, and it was very much alive. Inside, Savannah took a final moment to breathe. In the bridal suite, she bowed her head as her mother prayed over her. "Lord, bless this union. Bless this man. Let their love be strong, and let their future be full." Savannah whispered, "Amen," as her eyes welled with tears. To her, this day was sacred, holy, a promise made real. She still had no idea what was waiting outside the frame. Bianca pulled the case from the passenger seat, set it in her lap, opened it, stared at the weapon. Her fingers traced the shape of it like a rosary. Not from fear, but focus. This wasn't vengeance. Not anymore. This was truth. This was visibility. This was the sound of a woman who refused to be erased. Back at the estate, the ceremony was minutes from beginning. Guests had begun taking their seats. Rows of white chairs lined the garden aisle, petals scattered down the center. A string quartet played soft, romantic melodies. The air buzzed with anticipation. People dabbed sweat from their temples and took selfies with the floral arch behind them. Nobody noticed the sedan pull into the back of the lot. Nobody noticed the woman who stepped out, calm, composed, radiant in a champagne satin dress that mirrored the late afternoon sky. Nobody noticed Bianca slip through the entrance like a shadow in silk. She passed the welcome table, ignored the guest book, ignored the photo collage of Malik and Savannah, ignored the "Forever Starts Now" sign hand-lettered in gold ink. She found her seat in the last row, sat down, crossed her legs, removed her sunglasses, clutched her purse, and waited. She didn't come to interrupt. She came to witness, to let the fantasy unfold, to watch it die in the moment it felt most alive. Two women, two worlds, one dressed in ivory lace, ready to build a life on promises. The other dressed in satin shadow, ready to burn every lie to ash. And with each passing second, they were moving closer, toward an altar built on secrets, toward an aisle soaked in denial, toward a moment that would tear the sky in half. The bride was ready. So was the gun. The garden looked like heaven. Rows of white chairs gleamed under the golden haze of late afternoon sun. Rose petals lined the aisle like a trail into forever. Guests fanned themselves with custom programs. Violin strings floated softly through the breeze. At the far end of the aisle, an arch of white flowers framed the altar like something from a dream. Savannah Cole stood beneath it, pure elegance in ivory silk, pearl buttons trailing her spine like a string of whispered promises. She held her bouquet with both hands, her smile soft, her eyes bright with tears not yet fallen. Across from her stood Malik Hayes. Perfect tux, tight smile, sweat glinting faintly at his hairline. To everyone watching, it looked like love. To Malik, it felt like a countdown. The officiant spoke with gentle grace, his voice rolling over the audience like warm wind. He talked about unity, commitment, the sacred vow of marriage. Two souls choosing each other, fully, forever. Guests leaned in. Some sniffled. Others smiled and squeezed their partner's hand. This was the moment Malik had built, curated, crafted to erase everything before it. Except the past doesn't stay buried. It walks, in heels. The vows were personal. Savannah's voice quivered as she spoke of trust, of building something sacred, of knowing in her bones that Malik was her person. When she finished, people clapped gently. Her mother sobbed quietly. Even the photographer looked misty-eyed behind the lens. Malik followed, his tone smooth, rehearsed. Words like devotion, change, forever. He didn't look at Savannah as much as he looked through her toward the crowd, scanning, waiting, dreading. Then came a line. That line, the one meant to be a formality, a relic from some older tradition. If anyone here has reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony. The officiant said, "Speak now, or forever hold your peace." A beat of silence, a second, two, three, and then a chair scraped. All heads turned toward the sound. In the very last row, a woman stood. Champagne-colored satin shimmered around her. Her dark sunglasses now gone. Her clutch held tight in one hand. No one knew who she was. No one recognized her. No one moved, except Malik. His face dropped like glass. Savannah looked up at him, confused. His jaw clenched. His hands twitched at his sides. The officiant blinked, unsure. The bridesmaids froze. Guests shifted nervously in their seats. Bianca Price stepped forward. One heel, then the other. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She spoke. Clear, dead calm. "You weren't going to tell her about our little vacation?" she asked, holding up a small silver flash drive. "Or the video?" Gasps. Ripples of confusion. A ripple of dread. Someone in the third row muttered, "Who is that?" Another guest pulled out their phone. Savannah's brows furrowed. She turned toward Malik, who stood frozen, lips parted. The air had shifted. The wind itself seemed to stop. Everything stilled. Bianca walked down the aisle like she belonged there. One step, then another. Unhurried, unapologetic. She passed stunned guests, her eyes never leaving the man at the altar. The flash drive glinted in the sun before she tucked it back in her clutch. And then, she reached in again. This time, Her hand came out holding something else. Something black. Compact. Deadly. A pistol. Screams didn't come immediately. Shock has a way of freezing people before fear kicks in. The moment stretched, agonizingly. A slow-motion collapse. Malik's hands lifted slightly. His lips moved. Bianca, wait. She didn't. She raised the weapon, pointed it straight at him. You made me believe I was real, she said, her voice louder now. Steady. Unblinking. Someone screamed. Chairs screeched. A woman in the front row ducked. A bridesmaid dropped her bouquet. Malik took a step forward, as if to reason with her. Bianca was faster. The gun fired. Crack. A sharp, sickening sound that shattered the calm like a bomb. The bullet hit Malik's shoulder. He twisted, stumbled, blood blooming across white fabric. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Guests dove under chairs. Phones clattered to the ground. The aisle, once lined with petals, became a stampede of feet and shredded silk. And yet, Bianca stood still. Her eyes found Savannah. The bride stood paralyzed beneath the flowered arch. Bouquet still in hand. Eyes wide, mouth open, her dream bleeding in front of her. Bianca turned, raised the gun again. No words this time, just a final decision. She pulled the trigger. Crack. The bullet hit Savannah square in the chest. The bouquet dropped. Her knees buckled. She felt like a ribbon unraveling. Her gown pooled around her on the white stone path. Blood soaked through the silk, fast, spreading like spilled wine. People screamed her name. A bridesmaid collapsed beside her, hands pressed to the wound. But Savannah's eyes were already glassy, already far. The girl who believed in forever was gone before the music even stopped. The sound of the second gunshot didn't just echo. It split the air, and then the world exploded. Screams tore through the garden like wildfire. Chairs clattered and flipped as people surged to their feet. Glass shattered. Plates fell. Bouquets flew. 1 second, it had been a wedding. The next, it was a war zone. Guests ran, tripping over heels, veils, and each other. Someone knocked over the champagne tower. Someone else dove behind the welcome table, pulling a crying child beneath it. The quartet scattered, instruments forgotten. And in the center of it all, still calm, motionless, stood Bianca Price. Her gun hung in her hand. Her expression? Blank. Not rage. Not remorse. Just release. Savannah lay sprawled on the aisle runner. Her dress, once a cloud of ivory, was now drenched in deep red. The petals beneath her body turned dark and wet. Her arms twitched once, then went still. A bridesmaid collapsed beside her, screaming her name. Savannah. No, no, please. Savannah. But Savannah's eyes, they stared through the sky. She was gone, just like that. Gone before she could even say, I do. Malik writhed near the altar, one hand pressed against the bleeding wound in his shoulder. His face twisted in pain, but his eyes, they were locked on Bianca. Not with anger, not with horror, with recognition. He had called her delusional, had told her she was nothing, and now she had become everything. The reason his bride lay dead. The reason his perfect life had collapsed in front of 200 screaming witnesses. Someone tried to rush Bianca, Malik's cousin maybe. He lunged from behind a row of overturned chairs, hoping to grab the gun. She turned, fired a shot into the air. Crack. Everyone dropped. Screams intensified. The man froze in place, arms raised, retreating slowly. No one else dare move. The silence that followed was filled with terror. No one knew what Bianca would do next. Not even Bianca. She looked around, at the blood on the aisle, at the guests crouched in terror, at Malik, half-conscious and gasping, at Savannah, beautiful even in death, laid out like a fallen angel. Bianca blinked, and for a moment, just one, something cracked across her face. Not a tear, not regret, something closer to emptiness. She raised the pistol again, but when she pulled the trigger, click, nothing. Again, click, still nothing. The gun had jammed. Bianca stared at it, tried to fix it, tried again. Click, click, click. Her breathing grew uneven, not from fear, from frustration. The story wasn't finished. Not yet. And then she threw it. The gun clattered across the stone aisle, slid beneath a row of chairs, and with that final gesture, almost theatrical, Bianca turned, lifted the hem of her dress, and ran. Her heels slipped against the stone path. She hiked the satin fabric to her knees and sprinted through the shattered scene, past the toppled cake table, past the upended photo collage, past guests too stunned to move. She burst through the garden archway and disappeared down the side path toward the lot. Behind her, someone yelled, "Call the cops." Another shouted for a doctor. Several guests chased after her, but no one was fast enough. Not yet. The parking lot was chaos. Cars idled half-abandoned. One guest had driven off, tires screeching. Another had passed out behind the wheel, trembling. But Bianca? She ran with purpose. She spotted her car at the far end of the lot. The black sedan. Her escape. But she wasn't alone. 2 uniformed security guards had already spotted her. They shouted. She pivoted, darted between cars. One caught her arm. The other grabbed her waist. She thrashed. "He lied to me," she screamed. "He said it was real." They brought her down hard. Her knees scraped against gravel. Her dress tore along the side. One heel snapped completely. Her hair, once sleek, was now a wild tangle of pins and sweat. "Let me go," she sobbed. "You don't understand." But they did. They had seen the altar. They had seen the blood. They held her down as sirens pierced the distance, as phones recorded, as the whole nightmare was streamed live by a guest hiding behind car. The squad car door slammed shut. Inside it, Bianca sat, hands cuffed, dress ruined, face streaked with tears, sweat, and powder. And still, her lips moved. Over and over again, she whispered, "He lied to me. He said it was real." Outside the car, reporters had already begun to gather. Inside the garden, Savannah's body was covered with a white cloth. Malik was loaded into an ambulance, pale and bleeding. And in the middle of it all, the aisle that once held rose petals was now soaked in blood and shattered dreams. By nightfall, the estate was silent. No more laughter, no more toasts, no music beneath the twinkle lights. Just shattered glass, blood-stained linens, and yellow police tape curling around overturned chairs. Where hours earlier, Savannah Cole had stood smiling in white, now only shadows remained. The altar still stood, but the petals at its base were soaked dark with tragedy. Paramedics fought to keep Malik Hayes alive. The bullet had torn through his shoulder, fractured bone, and nicked an artery. He survived, but the damage was done, not just to his body, to everything. Savannah never made it off the estate. She was pronounced dead in the ambulance, 29 years old. Her mother, who had prayed over her that morning, collapsed in the hospital hallway. Her father screamed into his hands until his voice broke. The gown Savannah chose for love became her shroud. The guests who had cheered her on just hours earlier now left behind shoes, phones, and splattered programs in their panic. A wedding meant to unite families became a massacre that scarred everyone it touched. News broke fast. Bride gunned down at wedding. Mistress crashes ceremony, opens fire. True crime in real time. First it hit local stations. Then it hit everywhere. By the next morning, Savannah's smiling bridal portraits were on every screen. Her final Instagram post, captioned "Can't wait to marry my best friend," was flooded with comments. "You didn't deserve this. Rest in peace, beautiful bride. He should have protected you." Meanwhile, the mugshot of Bianca Price hit the internet like a match to dry grass. Orange jumpsuit, hair messy, foundation still half intact, and across her face, a faint smile. Not a grin, not a sneer, just the smallest, coldest flicker of satisfaction. The image went viral. Talk shows dissected it. Pundits debated it. Twitter turned it into a meme. Was she proud? Was she evil? Was she broken? No one could agree. Some blamed Malik, called him a manipulator, said his lies were the match that lit the fuse. Others blamed Savannah for being naive, for not seeing the signs. But most blamed Bianca. They called her a monster, a Jealous Mistress, a sociopath in satin. The hashtags told the story. Trauma rippled through everyone who'd been there. Guests described nightmares. Children who had witnessed the shooting stopped sleeping. Therapists were called. Schools were closed for students affected. One woman said she couldn't hear string music without panicking. Another said she still sees Savannah's body when she closes her eyes. The estate shut its gates, canceled all future events. The floral arch was taken down, but the stain on the stone where Savannah fell, that never came out. Bianca's trial became the nation's next obsession. Would she plead insanity? Would she try to justify it as emotional abuse? Her defense hinted at trauma, said she had been manipulated, that Malik had played with her mind, that she'd been erased, humiliated, broken. The prosecution pushed back hard. She planned this. She trained for it. She walked down that aisle knowing exactly what she was going to do. And that's what stayed with people. Not just the act, but the way she walked. The calm, the certainty, the slow, deliberate footsteps in satin and silence. That wasn't rage. That was execution. And it's why she'll never walk free again. Savannah's family buried her in her hometown. The same church she was baptized in. The same one where she used to sing solos as a child. Her casket was white. Her flowers were ivory. Her veil draped across her chest like snow. People came from miles. Some who didn't even know her. Just to say goodbye. To say they were sorry. To say it should never have happened. And they were right. Because Savannah Cole believed in love. She believed in redemption. She believed in beginnings. And in the end, all she got was erased. Her name became a headline. Her story became content. Her face became a cautionary tale. All because a man lied, and a woman refused to be forgotten. So the next time you hear the words, "Speak now, or forever hold your peace," remember this. Some people don't speak. They pull the trigger.